up, guys? Welcome back to Talking Rad, the podcast with the Radkatz. And I think this is episode 7. And we've got a very special guest here on the show today that we've been promising you guys for a while, and he's finally been able to meet with us. So, Thane, introductions?
This is Dr. Glen Page. I guess are you retired or?
Yeah, semi-retired.
Semi-retired, yeah. So, he's a semi-retired doctor, and he's been working, he was working as a doctor for how many years?
This is my 37th.
37 years. I think a long time.
That is a very, very long time. So, what made you want to go into medicine, go into the medical field?
Well, that is, I've asked that question numerous times, especially over the years, because it's been very difficult at times. But I think probably the thing I looked at first is I was going to counsel people, and so as I went to college, my direction changed. I saw other things I'd like to do, and I decided to pursue a medical career. Unfortunately, I didn't have anybody to follow in suit because none of my family went into medicine. But I was fortunate to be able to do well, and I've been happy since.
So is it a hard process going through the whole transition, going into medicine? Obviously, I know there's tons of schooling that has to go with it, and you have to actually apply to medical schools. So, you have to travel, as far as I know. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's very challenging. It's the time when I was applying, there was a very, very competitive time to enter medical school. As I remember interviewing for a number of colleges, and everybody had their own criteria as far as accepting you into medical school. But some schools, 1 out of 200, were only 200 applicants would be able to get in to their school. The school I finally graduated from was the University of Arizona, and it took me 3 different times of applying to finally get into their medical school, because it only accepted 1 out of 8 applicants at the time. So it was very, very, very challenging. It was very, very competitive. There was only one grade that you could get, and that was an A. You couldn't afford to get a B or a C. Definitely a D or an F would put you out of contention altogether. Very competitive.
So is it still as competitive back then as it is today, or is it worse?
I don't think it's quite as competitive. It is not as appealing profession to pursue as it was back then. We have so much regulation in medicine anymore that it's not appealing to the younger generation to enter medicine.
So I think that's a side of medicine that most people don't realize is the rules and regulations. You're dealing with, I've heard from multiple different people that actually work in medicine as far as doctors and nurses that there's a whole different side to working in the medical field than just helping people. And there's the whole government side. You have to deal with insurances, money. How big of an influence or a hand does the government and insurances play a part in medicine?
You will not talk to one physician out there who would not tell you that the most difficult part of medicine is nowhere close to seeing the patients. The most difficult part about medicine, going into the field of medicine, is dealing with the government and their regulations, dealing with insurance companies and their regulations, dealing with hospital administrations and their regulations. We're so over-regulated that it really affects our ability to practice what we've learned to practice, and that's medicine for our patients.
So if somebody shows up, let's say that a widowed mother shows up with her child and she doesn't have insurance, she couldn't even afford it. It's she's on welfare or whatever. Like, what if somebody like that shows up and there's no way that they could ever pay this medical bill? But let's say that child's dying. Like, what would you guys do in that situation? Would you just say no, or?
If you were an independent physician and did not work for a hospital or some kind of organization, you may have the ability to give free care. But if you worked for somebody, they may have regulations where they state you're not allowed to give free care. And so consequently, it really depends on the situation you're in.
So would you just let that person die, or?
If they're in the hospital or they're in the emergency room, they have to take care of the patients. They would not let them die. But if you wanted to give somebody free care, or if you wanted to buy them medicine because they couldn't afford it, certain organizations, certain hospitals would not allow their physicians to do those kinds of things. So it's depends on the situation. But that is just one of many things that you would encounter that you may not agree with, that you have to comply with.
So it's like either do that or get fired, pretty much, or?
You do that or get reprimanded at least.
Well, I don't know. That's just like coming from like just a humane standpoint. Like if somebody needs your help and they can't afford to, if someone's like dying or they're super sick and they come to you in need of help, like, I mean, I feel like that's just like the humane thing to do is you just help them.
It is the humane thing to do, and the majority of physicians would do it anyway and pay the consequences because they're more concerned about the patient than the mandates or rules coming from other organizations. So you're right, they would be taken care of because that's what we were trained to do, no matter what the consequences are.
Well, I know that, I mean, I've seen in other cities and places that I've been where they're like, if you don't have insurance, it even says, if you don't have insurance, we won't even deal with you. Which I think is like silly. It's like, come on, like if people need your help and you are trained in that, whatever it is, you should, I don't know. I guess that's where I disagree with whoever's running the whole medical field is that, like, when does money become more important than somebody's life? Like, if you think about it, I mean, I've heard this before. I'm sure you guys have. It's like you can take the richest man alive, and as soon as you put that man's life at risk, he'll give you every cent that he has to save his life. Like, which, I mean, I agree. Well, like, that's I guess the moral question you need to ask is, when does money become more important than an individual's existence of their life?
Well, the majority of physicians that take care of patients really don't focus. If it's a life or death situation, they do not focus on the finances. They really do focus. You'll always, in all professions, find some that are greedy, selfish, do things for gain. But the majority of the physicians I have met are not that way. They do have to make a living, that's true, and it seems like they charge a lot, and that's true too. But the cost of medical care is outstanding. It's enormous, to the point that we're not even sure as physicians how people can afford medical care, period. But if somebody comes in with a sick child, someone comes in and has no way of paying for it, they've lost their job, they've had to move, there's been a death or a divorce or some other factor take place, you have to look at the situation. And as physicians, we'd like to see the mandates changed. We'd like to see us have more control once again, like we had years ago. The only way that's going to happen is not through us. The only way it's going to change is from the people. The people have to mandate those in control that the care needs to, the quality care and the care given to the patients need to be given back to the health care providers. That's the only way to solve this problem, is coming from the people themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's like you don't go ask somebody who knows a lot about cars how to, fix computers. Like I heard a story. There was a nurse that I'm friends with, and she was saying that she had to deal a lot with insurance companies would call, and they said a lot of the times the people that were calling from the insurance companies asking about a specific patient or specific drugs that the insurance is going to pay for, they had no idea. And it's like, these insurance companies and the governments that are running the medical field, I would say like 7 out of 10 times have no idea what they're even talking about. They don't even care. They just are trying to make sure that their back's covered so they can make money XYZ. And I just think that's stupid. Like, I completely agree. Give the power back where it needs to be with those who are actually on, out there in the rooms, out there in the hospitals actually helping these people. They can see what they're going through. If somebody comes in with a busted head and they need X, Y, and Z drug, why should the insurance companies have to, I don't know, get their hands in there and make sure that, instead of giving them this $500 drug, give them this $50 drug because it'll do. It's okay. Like, how come? I don't know. I always thought that was stupid too. How come you give people the semi-good drugs instead of just prescribing them like the very best?
Many times you'll talk to the insurance companies trying to get something approved. It is very, very common for us to have to use inferior drugs just because of the cost. And their contention is we're not stopping them from using the more efficient medication. They can buy it themselves. And we get told that all the time. It's their choice to use it. But what they fail to realize is medicine is so expensive anymore that people cannot afford it unless they have insurance that will pay for it. So consequently, people always choose the inferior drugs because they can't afford the more expensive ones. This happens every day in medical practice.
So is there like specific companies that create these drugs that are charging a fortune? Like, does it really cost that much money to make these pills or these pain medications or, anesthesia or whatever the drugs you guys are using? Is it really that expensive to make? Or
people can get the medicines they're a lot less expensive in Mexico. Definitely if you can get them through the Canadian online pharmacies, they're a lot less expensive in Canada. You go to Australia, England, Germany, New Zealand, Japan, their medicines are all more reasonable price than here in the United States. The pharmaceutical companies have such powerful lobbies in government that they pretty much mandate what they want to do, and they get away with it.
See, I don't know. I think it does, like you're saying, it needs to change. If somebody wanted to in a sense take over the world, all they would have to do is start some huge epidemic where everybody's sick and everybody needs and let's say that company that started the epidemic, terrorists or whoever, some corrupt person starts this epidemic, but they have the cure or they have the immunity, the vaccine for it or whatever. All they'd have to do is create that vaccine, create the disease, and they have the whole world at their hands, Insurance companies aren't going to pay for all that stuff.
Yeah, this a similar thing happened with Martin Shkreli when he had that pharmaceutical. He bought that drug for AIDS. He jacked up the price to 4,000%. Yeah, he was part of a pharmaceutical company. I later found out his reasoning is that he tried to make the drug better, so he made it higher price, but his tactics weren't very well received in the public eye. I don't really get how you make a drug so insanely priced, I think it was $700 a pill, that it would help research, because that's where pharmaceutical companies have to come in to research drugs better so they're more effective at what they're supposed to cure.
I don't know. over the years, like since I've studied medicine, and I mean I definitely have not been anywhere near where you have been in it, but I just feel like it's so corrupt. There's so much money that's dumped into it by governments, by our tax dollars. Like cancer research, for example. You know, cancer's been around for what? Forever, a long time. And I feel like there's billions of dollars dumped into cancer research, and there's still nothing. There's absolutely not. What are they doing with the money? You know, and I'm not saying that they're not out there trying to actually do research, but I mean, what a great scam if they are lying. That, you know, hey, let's. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm so fed up with like the medicine and how it's just become a money game. It's like, come on, when? I don't know. That's honestly the overlying question. When does money become more important than a life? You know, why do we need to charge so much money for all this stuff that people need to live, you know?
Well, it's not just in medicine that you see this. And that's why I have such great faith in you young people, is because one of the things I've noted with the millennials, or the ones that are just new to this situation, is they're thinkers. They dream. They're independent. They make their own decisions. And a lot of things that the government mandates to them, they ignore. A lot of the things where we've been told, get this education or you'll have consequences, they ignore. I like to hope and dream that someday they will figure out a way to change the direction of medicine, for example. I'd like them to change the direction of food for the world. I'd like to see them change the direction of, hopefully, for free energy for all people throughout the world. I'd like them to see not only do something better for medicine, but maybe even cure diseases better. Find better ways to make the cost less effective. Find better ways where we can teach people how to heal themselves and not so dependent on the medical community. I have a lot of belief and faith that you and all your compatriots out there will do this. I have hope and dreams that someday things will change to the point that we have a way better world than we have now. That the military war complex that hides various things that have been created to grow food and create energy will be done away with. That the complexity of the government will be made simpler. I hope I will be dead, but I hope that you will carry forth that legacy and make these changes so that we do have a better world. Because the way it presents itself now, it needs to change.
And I agree with what you're saying, and I think it slowly is changing today. I mean, I think the kids of our generation, even kids, you know, younger than us, like you were saying, they don't really listen. Like my siblings, for example, you'll tell them to do something, and they will immediately do the exact opposite, whatever you say. And I think it's because people don't like being told what to do. People like to be free. They like to act on their own free will, and I think that the government has had their hands, like, they've restricted the way that people have lived their lives for so long that people are finally, like, awakening, and they're saying, you know what, this is just garbage, you know. And I think a perfect example of somebody who is not only trying but succeeding in changing the world is Elon Musk, and I'm sure you guys have heard about him. He's kind of a big deal, but he you know, he's changing the whole transportation thing. Like, his goal is to make transportation free with his electric cars, which he's saying all you need to do is buy a Tesla, and you can drive it forever for free, because he's building these charging stations where it'll charge your car in like 15, 20 minutes, and they're going to run on solar panels, so it'll be free. And so his goal is to make travel free, to make living free as far as energy goes, where you're going to have free electricity. And I just think it's these, you know, these are humongous steps in the human society. You know, when's the last time that people have changed the way they traveled, besides going from a buggy to a car and from cars to airplanes now, or from boats to airplanes? So I mean, those are huge jumps. But when in the last 60 years have people come up with ideas like this, where how can we get rid of gas? You know, gas is so expensive, and these gas companies have been in control of travel for so long. You know, and it's cool to see that change. And I think in 5 to 10 years, people aren't going to be using gas powered anything anymore. It'll all be electric, and it's going to be free.
Well, I'm gonna say maybe not 5 to 10, but hopefully I want to see maybe gas powered things be obsolete by maybe 20 years.
Well, it could come sooner, because look, the Tesla's already out,
Yeah.
and if these other big car companies don't switch, like, they're going to lose all their business. No one's going to buy gas powered cars anymore. I mean, if you can save $100 a month on gas, that basically makes your car payment. You know.
Yeah, I want. It'd be great if by 2030 or so, we have just electric based cars.
Well, it could come faster. I mean, look in the last 10 years how much technology's transformed. Like, we have computers in our pockets now. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, this thing wasn't here when the smartphone wasn't here when I was in grade school. We had just the regular Nokia, indestructible Nokia phones.
Yeah. Well, and now we can talk to people for free that live on the complete opposite side of planet Earth. Like, if I were to, travel back in time 30 years ago, when you were growing up, and I held one of these little devices in my hand, what would you think? Like,
Well, it's just like the first computer for my office was in 1988 or 1989, and I can remember saying to everybody in my office, "This is a waste. These are absolute waste. What good are they going to do for us? Where there's no direction for it to go." Look how wrong I was. Look at what has happened over the decades since. It's what's going to happen in the next few decades. We're going to be overwhelmed by what takes place. We're just going to be unbelievable, finding things that we never dreamed would ever happen. So it'll be exciting.
yeah, I completely agree. And I think the reason this is happening now is because, like I mentioned earlier, people are awakening. They're becoming more aware of who they are, their existence. Then they have a desire to change things. They realize that, hey, this has been run like this for X amount of years, and this sucks. Like, this is terrible. I don't know how people have just lived this way. If we were to go back 60 years ago, 70 years ago, we'd be like, wow, I don't even know how people are living. This isn't even living. This is scraping. This is working your butt off so you can barely live. And I don't know if it was very fun back then. I mean, I don't think I go a day without being on the internet. I consume and I do my work. Like, I work from my internet, so from my computer. I do that every single day. But I think it's just amazing in 10 years how far technology's come, and in another 10, I mean, you don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
But, no, it's super exciting.
Remember back then, even video games, they're just in the 80s, they're just 2D, big, blocky pixels. Now you look at today and they're full 3D humans, and they're pretty much like movies. They can you can pretty much recreate an entire movie with a video game.
Yeah.
Oops. And pretty much play in that movie. You can in Star Wars, you can have Luke not get his hand cut off. You could find get a technique that defeats Darth Vader, in Episode 5.
Well, and it's like VR now. You can submerge yourself within this video game.
Yeah, and VR technology back in the 90s when they released the Virtual Boy, that was the worst thing ever. It was just pure red, and it was just a 2D, and it didn't feel 3D. It was more 3D than virtual, and gave you a headache. But then you put on VR, and it's full color, it's immersive, and you feel like you're in that situation, or in the game.
No, it's changing, man. Technology is changing. It's amazing. So, but I think it's even going to go beyond. I think VR is going to go beyond just the video game industry. What I think is amazing is the entertainment industry in general. Like 30 years ago, back in the 80s, if you wanted to be an actor, what did you have to do? You had to go through, big companies. You had to get to Hollywood. You had to, get on the big screen. You had to act in plays. You had to build your way up and get noticed. You had to do the same with music. You had to, be a great musician with a great band, and you had to go out there and play, and hopefully a record label or producer would see you and catch your eye, and then they would sign you. Like, you had to go through all these big companies, and now you don't have to do that. Like, I think the line between, like, Hollywood, the big entertainment, and, like, independent, like what we do or what, people do as far as filmmaking and making their own music, like, you don't need a producer anymore. You don't need Hollywood to make a nice film or a great song. Like, because of computers, you can do anything. It's limitless, and I think that's what is amazing, and I think this is what's taken the power away from these top dogs that have ran the world for so long, is people's ability to create on their own now. You don't need the big guys anymore, and I don't know. That's why
the big guys are trying to destroy the internet.
Yeah, well, how many times in the last year has YouTube been attacked? YouTube is one of the biggest content creating platforms out there. Like, for people like us, there's millions upon millions of independent creators out there on YouTube, and how many times did YouTube get attacked?
A lot.
Like, a lot. Like, they lost a ton of freaking money because of the Wall Street Journal, which is dying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't read the news. I don't watch the news.
Print media is probably going to be gone in, like, the next decade. Like, when it's mostly older people who buy newspapers. But the thing about newspapers is that everything you can find in the newspaper, like even the local newspaper in, like, a small town here, it's online. It's all online.
And it's online the day of. Like, I can go watch a high school basketball game, and then after the game's over, I can get online and see who won, It didn't used to be that way. You used to have to wait for it. And I think another big thing that's the internet's done is they've changed how we get our news, Back then, do you remember just listening to the radio all the time to get the news, and then eventually the TV? Like, how did it go back then for you guys?
It was completely different. Growing up, many times in a community, there was one channel. The news was only a half hour long. The entertainment was completely different. For example, dance was very common. After high school, sporting events or going to sporting events were very common. It was a completely different generation then. There's so much more to offer today than there was back then. And I think as you're going to see with your children, a complete change from what we see today. There's going to be changes. I remember reading an article not too long ago on the internet where they predicted that within the next 15 years, the work week would drop down to maybe 15 to 16 hours a week from the regular 40 hour. And I'd say, how is that possible? How can they do that? How can people sustain themselves? And I wasn't the only one asking those questions. And the person that wrote the article said the reason they can is because look at the cost of food. Look at the cost of energy. Look at the cost of housing. We no longer have fees to give to banks. A lot of the fees are taken away. A lot of the government services we pay so much through taxes will no longer be needed. There's going to be an evolution of some kind that you guys will bring about. I don't know how it's going to take place, but I truly believe it will take place. Watch and see if what he said is true.
That's the thing. I didn't know you had to pay fees to the bank before, because when I opened a bank account, I kept all my money in there, and they didn't take any of it.
The fees are more like associated like transferring money
Yeah, they don't take any of that today.
Well, if you go deposit money from an ATM, they'll charge you for that. If you want to transfer money from your bank account to, say, your dad's or brother's or whoever, they'll charge a fee for that. If you go get a loan, they charge interest. I didn't know how much you actually pay on interest for a loan, but I got a loan for my car for $6,500, and I put $1,000 down. So my loan was just $5,500, but over the course of 4 years, I would be paying over $10,000 for that $5,500 loan. So it's literally double, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is a scam in and of itself.
Yeah.
Charging me double for borrowing half of it, and I'm just, yeah, I agree. I think the banks need to, I don't know, cut out the middleman, and I think that's where it is going. We don't need it anymore,
Your generation is going to find ways to do this. That's what I think is going to happen. You're going to see what you're seeing with all these fees and other things that are not needed, and find ways and avenues to bypass it. And because of that, look at what's happened in Sears in Twin Falls. Who had ever dreamed that Sears would close? And it's closing. How many Sears stores did you ever dream a Kmart store would ever close? Look how many Kmart stores are closing. Watch retail business and what happens to it. There's a whole complete revolution with regard to retail marketing that's taken place.
Well, and I've seen that too. I've done a lot of research on what's called dropshipping, because I'm a big online shopper because it's so much cheaper. I'll go to Walmart and I'll see a chair for $150, and then I'll get online and I'll see that same chair for $80, and that's all these retail, Walmart, groceries. This is all these stores are doing. Macy's, JCPenney. They're buying clothes for cheaper, and then they're selling them for a butt ton of money. So this is why retail is going to be changed. These companies are going to shut down because you can get it so much cheaper. You can buy it online. I don't ever go shopping anymore. I always buy everything I need online. You can buy anything and everything you can dream of online. And with Amazon doing the whole grocery thing, you're going to be able to buy your groceries and have them shipped to your house. You don't have to go shopping anymore. It's all done via online.
Walmart, they also have a thing where you can select items and for your and go to your local Walmart, and they'll have them ready for you when you go pick them up. So yeah, Walmart, if their retail shuts down, they have a big online store that they'll try to compete with Amazon with. They're I think they're trying to also compete with Amazon in the online front.
Yeah, which if I shop from Walmart, it is online. So.
Yeah.
And usually 9 times out of 10, Walmart is cheaper than Amazon. Amazon's really expensive.
Yeah.
So. But I think the cool thing about all of this changing is it's going to free up people to do what they love. I think that's one thing that the human race struggles with is they'll spend, from their 20 till they're 65 just working until they can retire. I've been told that so many times in my life, you need to find a stable job to where you can work till you're 65 and retire with a great retirement. And I'm just thinking, why? Why would I go work a job that I'm not really interested in just so I can retire? That's 45 years of my life that I would just be slaving away at something that I, wasn't really that into. And I'm saying, well, what if you die tomorrow? Would you be happy with where you are today? And I guarantee you 90%, if not more, of the world population would say, no, I regret this. I wish I would have done that. Or, I wish I would have followed my passions. Or I wish I wouldn't have given up on what I was pursuing. Or I wish I would have taken this more serious or spent more time with my family. And I think that people will start truly living if they think that way, which I'm not saying, you could die tomorrow, so go light up a place or go blow all your money. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just take every moment that you have and evaluate it and say, is this what I want to be doing? You can go to any fast food place or go into Walmart and see how unhappy these employees look. And it's like they're stuck. They can't do anything else because they need to make money so they can live, which, I mean, I believe everybody has equal opportunity. I just think that people need to find what they love and to do that. Like, nobody ever got rich by doing something that they didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works. Your charisma and your attitude and enthusiasm really plays a big part in your profession, whatever you're doing. Like, I'm sure you've seen doctors that hate their jobs and they don't work well. They're really ignorant to their patients. I mean, do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you see that occur. But a lot of times it's not because of medicine. It's because they're just unhappy. That it wouldn't matter if it was in medicine or dentistry or an accountant or teaching or construction. It doesn't matter. They're just unhappy with their lives and happy with what they're doing. For example, you two are going to see a time where there's going to be a change. And you will have time to pursue your interests, pursue the things you like, whether it be, writing, which I do some writing. It could be poetry. It could be, art. It could be developing programs, like games or whatever it would be that they love to do. And why not be happy on this earth? Why not find ways to make life better? Why not find ways to help not only our individual community here, but maybe all communities? Why not work to where we don't have so much dependency on governments and regulating regimens of some kind? And I think you're going to see that occur. Wouldn't it be better if we had just a couple of rules, like let everybody believe how they want to believe, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody? Or maybe we could say, let's just help each other. And instead of having the government make a law where we're mandated to help somebody, we just do it because it's the proper thing to do. I think you're going to see things like that occur in the future. I have great hope for that to occur. Although the establishment is going to be against it, and they're going to do everything they can and everything in their power to not lose that control, not to lose that power, not to be able to create the finances that they want to create. But you'll overcome that. I really believe that.
And I think the goal to all of that is, like you said, like, people need to find what they enjoy, find what makes them happy, and to do that. Like, I was always told that, like I mentioned earlier, you gotta do this, go to school, become this, so you could make good enough. It was always just good enough. And I'm thinking, well, why is it just good enough instead of, like, being better, like doing what makes you happy? And if everybody, like, would use their talents and their God-given abilities and their what they love to do and did that, like, I think the world would be a better place. People would they wouldn't be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. They're afraid to pursue whatever it is they want to do. They're afraid to take those initial steps forward. They're afraid to try. They're afraid to put themselves out there. If you always live in fear, like, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of a life. What are you afraid of? People fear what hasn't even happened. And it doesn't mean it'll ever happen. People are afraid, well, if I do this, then X, Y, and Z, that person will make fun of me, or what if I fail? Or it's always they're afraid of what's not even there. It doesn't even exist yet, and they're afraid of it. And I don't know. Which I think it is changing slowly but surely. I think there's a lot of role models, especially out there on the internet, that are really trying to inspire people, and I think that's what's cool. That's kind of, I think, our goal in general is to inspire people to become better and to change the world. I think that's what really the overlaying theme is change the world. Make the world a better place, not just for yourself, but for everybody. But yeah, it is changing. It's coming slowly but surely.
One thing you can encourage as an older man now, that I can encourage the young people, is just the exact thing you said, Skylar, is that do not have the fear. Do not have that fear. Really believe that you can accomplish. It's surprising how positive attitude, lack of fear, some people call it faith if you're religious, or some people, if maybe it's cause of just positive thinking. You truly believe that you can accomplish things that you never dreamed that you would ever be able to accomplish. I want to encourage the young people. Step out. Figure out how to solve these problems. You can do it. Don't be afraid. And whatever you do, ignore the negativity that you'll hear surrounding what you want to try to accomplish. You can do it. I have faith in you guys that you can do it. So I would continue, like these broadcasts you're giving are excellent. Continue to spread the word. Continue to encourage and continue to try to improve. Let's make this a better world. There's too many people out there that are greedy, selfish, or in control, want to have the power. You can eliminate that. You can take that away from them almost immediately if you work together as a group with common goals to accomplish.
I completely agree with that 100%. If people really would realize that they do have 100% control of their life, their decisions, where you are in life is you're there because of you, not because of your parents or not because of whatever. You're there because that's what you chose to be. Somebody that has worked in the fast food business for 20 years and they've hated their job ever since. Well, you've had 20 years to change your course, your direction of where you want to go, and you didn't. People have the decisions. They have their own choices, and I think, like we said, it's fear. If people can overcome that, that's when you can start seeing the changes in yourself and the changes in life. And I think there's a lot of smart people out there. There's kids out there that are changing the world. I read this article of this, I think he's 13 years old, and he's a quantum physicist, this kid, and he's learning how to take energy from the air and convert it into energy that we can use, which is absolutely amazing. A 13-year-old kid is doing this. So there really are no limits. The only limits is what you think they are,
You take this energy, you just look at the molecules that surround us and the amount of energy it takes that they produce just by movement alone. And we don't know how to harness that. Or if we do, it hasn't been revealed to us how to harness it. At any rate, there are so many things a person can choose to make this world a better place. Fix on that. It doesn't matter what it is. Every one of us have talents. Fix on it. Let's do it. Everyone can work together and they can make it a better place. That's even in the field of medicine too.
Well, I think it reaches above and beyond. So, but I think it's super exciting. So, but you did mention that you do some writing of your own. Like for those of you who don't know, he actually is an author and he's written his own books. And I've actually got a copy of. Is this the first book you've ever wrote, or first book you've published?
Yes, it's the first book I've written and the first one I published. I actually took a number of years to write it, and I published it in 2008. One of the difficult parts when you publish a book and when you're a physician is time. Your publisher wants you to go to book signings. They want to have you do television interviews. They want you to do radio interviews. And it takes a huge amount of time. So with the subsequent books I've written, I haven't published them, even though there's been a couple publishers want to publish them, because I just don't have the time. But maybe now that I'm semi-retired, I'll be able to do more. This particular one it's called the Apocalypse series. The first book's called The Last Plague. And it does talk about, has kind of some biblical information in it because I took a lot of the writings from the Book of Revelations, which I've studied a lot. But really, what I really did with writing is just took an interesting background. I just took an interesting background. To me, the interesting background was the last days, the apocalypse. What can happen because of just something you said about the flu virus? You know, I to this day, I don't know why in this community, I've always been over the infectious disease committee of the community. And I've always wondered why they haven't taken something like the avian flu or the Ebola virus and spread it throughout our country, which would be way cheaper to do than to attack it with military arsenal. You know. And maybe someday it'll happen. I don't know. But we have some very, very bad germs out there. And that's what triggered this first book of the series, of the Apocalypse series. And it's called The Last Plague. And it took a number of years to write. Mostly I did it when I was on call at night and would be awakened and I couldn't get back to sleep. Is when I usually wrote. I've finished 3 of them in that series. I've written another book called Gobel Fango, which is a historical novel about a black hero that came from South Africa to the United States at the start of the Civil War. And it's a true story. And I was told about the story by my grandma, whose dad was a business partner to this guy. And so I wrote a book about him too. Do this because I love it. I really love to write. It's one of my passions, okay? Just like, for example, music is passion for others. I love music too. Other people have sculpture as a passion. Others have art. Some have video games as their passion. Lots of passions out there. But this is one that I love.
So, what would be some advice you have for like upcoming creators, authors, musicians, content creators, sculptors? You know, what would be like some advice you could give them, especially like somebody that has an idea for a book that they want to write, but they just don't know what to do? Like, what would be some advice you could give?
I bought a lot of books to read about it, to how to promote the book. I'm not so much into the promoting anymore. I'm more into the writing. Give it out there to people to read if they want to read it. But the key is believing in yourself. So many people, when I went to medical school, told me that I would never get into medical school. There's only 2 people that believed in me. One was my mom and one was my father-in-law. And they were the only 2. And they continued to encourage me every time I would be turned down. They'd say, don't give up, let's do it again next year. And after 3 years, I was able to get into school. You have to believe in yourself. You can't give up. There's times you're going to be discouraged. There's times you want to give up. Times you just don't think you can do it. But you can, and you get better at it. As you do it, jump into it with both feet. And as you do it, you'll become accomplished. You'll become polished. You'll know exactly what to do. It's almost like, and I don't want to sound extra religious, but it's almost like somebody surrounding you or somebody's with you to help guide you and direct you in the ways. Because as I write this book, I will go from chapter to chapter and wonder what's going to happen in the next chapter. I'll have an overall view of where I want to go. But all of a sudden, some idea will come to me, and I'll say, where did this ever come from? And that happens in all things that you do.
Yeah, I think musicians call that like catching lightning in a bottle. I think everybody's inspired, and whether you call it God, the universe, your intuition, you know, whatever you want to call that power, it exists. And I'm sure everybody's seen it in their lives, especially people that have goals or something that they're creating, they're like, wow, like where did this come from? I know for me, before I started getting into like video producing, video editing, like filming videos, it was when was it? It was like 3 years ago, wasn't it, Thane?
Yeah.
But we were sitting in the basement, and it was like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And we just had this like idea pop into our heads, like, hey, why don't we make videos? Why don't we create things?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I don't know. It just, we've never even discussed it, thought about it or anything. It just like, boom, there it was. I think Thane actually brought it up, and you know, because we acted upon that idea, you know, we are where we are now. We've got a studio, we've got tons of equipment, ideas, and yeah, I think it's just when you act upon inspiration that you're given, that's when you can truly create, you know, beauty. You can create amazing things. It's just, I think the number one thing that stops people is, like you were saying, is they give up. You know, they'll try it for a month, they'll try it for a few months, they'll try it for a year, and they don't see any success, or they just don't think they're good enough, and they quit. But those, you know, anybody that's ever gotten anywhere in life, they never gave up. Like, there's a guy named Huey Lewis, and he was in a very famous band called Huey Lewis and the News, but I was watching this story on him, and he was actually touring in his band for 15 years before they finally got picked up by a record label to go out and play, and they became really huge. And I'm like, 15 years? You know, living your life 15 years, living show to show, like, that's how he would pay for stuff. It's like he barely made enough money by playing gigs that he could live. But in an interview, he said, this is what I wanted to do, and I told myself I wasn't going to do anything else besides play music, and I don't care if I, you know, do this until I die. You know, I will make sure that I play music, and I'm going to make a lot of money doing it. And he did, but it took 15 years. So like you're saying, if you have passion for something and you want to turn that into a living, or, you know, whatever, you can't give up. Like, you have to keep going. If it takes you 15, 20, 30 years, like, continue to do whatever it is, because you can't quit, you know. Just because somebody says, oh, you're not good enough, you know, who are they? If, you know, if they're not you, or if they're not where you want to be, why would you even listen to them?
Yeah. The thing about making videos is I've always wanted to make videos. When I first saw, like, people on the internet, like, review movies and stuff, like, one person was the Nostalgia Critic. He was like, when I watched him, I was like, wow, I want to make videos like that. But when I watch Nostalgia Critic Day, he hasn't really aged very well. But, like, JonTron, that's, like, those are the type of videos I want to make. Like, he's, like, my favorite YouTuber, and I'm like, yeah, I want to make videos that good, and like, maybe they won't be as, like, well produced, but, like, I want to, like, make, like, videos, like, kind of like in his early days. Like, if I can just make those, I'd be fine, and put my own style on it. But yeah, like, I've always wanted to make videos.
Yeah, and now you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what's cool, and it's kind of like how you mentioned that the more you do something, the better you get. You know, when you first graduated from medical school, you know, and you went out and started performing on patients, I'm sure you weren't, like, as good as you are now, but after doing something for so long, you get amazing at it, and it just becomes a part of you. You don't even think. You're just like, yeah, this is how it is, and I know how to do it, and it just clicks. And I think that's what's cool, is if you spend enough time doing whatever it is you do, like, you will become the absolute very best at it, and which I think that should be your goal with whatever it is. Like, if you're going to be a sports athlete, or a musician, or you're going to be in retail, or you're going to be, you know, whatever you're going to be the best at it. Don't be mediocre. Like, be the absolute very best at whatever it is you do. You know, how come people can they can become rich off being, you know, being the garbage guy? You know, first the guy starts out as he worked in the shop of the garbage company, and then he became a driver, and then he decided that, hey, I know how all this is. I could start my own company. And then becomes wealthy off being a garbage truck guy. Like, anybody can do, they can, I don't know, I just think you can become rich if that's your goal, which I don't think it's your goal, but you should be happy. But if you do what you love and you're very passionate about it, you can make a living doing it. You know, I fully believe that. I read this story one time of this lady who, she was working at a coffee shop and she had 3 kids and she was a single mom. And she was like barely making any money, but one thing she loved was scrapbooking. So what she did is she decided to make her own scrapbook supplies and sell it. And she was making over $100,000 a year because she decided to start doing that. Like, that was her passion, was scrapbook. So she found a way to make money scrapbooking, and now she makes, you know, all the money she could ever dream of scrapbooking.
So, more about the book. Can you like give us like a little like plot synopsis, like what the plot is exactly?
Sure, it's it is a book that actually is broken up into various sections. The characters are relatively unique. I purposely made the characters the way they are because people can identify with at least one of them. So everybody can identify. The hardest part was to find a story. The whole key for writing a book was to help people to change, to look at the way a person's living their life as a character and see them evolve and see them change. And what they can say to themselves is, I can do that. I can make those changes too. I can become like that. They did it. I can do it. And so the synopsis is about these characters that are loosely fit family that do various things in life. The story starts way back in various phases of life. There's. Let me tell you some of the characters. Okay, maybe that would help you. Twin sisters of Jesus Christ are 2 characters. John the Beloved is a character. A guy by the name of Indian is a character. A priest by the name of Pepe is a character. 2 doctors, one black and one white, are characters. Their wives are characters. All of them have unique problems. What is the story about? It's a story about a plague that was actually created by the government. It actually evolved into the plague that we're familiar with. And that plague is AIDS. Out of that AIDS virus came another virus that sterilized women so they could not have babies. All of a sudden we introduce another character in the plot. They're called Sprudice. Sprudice are people that are evil, that exist on the earth today. Who is their boss? It's Lucifer. So we introduce Lucifer into but that is only into the 2nd book. So that just gives you an example of what we talk about and what we show to the people. But the purpose of the story is an interesting story because it talks about things that are on the edge. It's almost like a fantasy. And that's what people have told me. This is almost like science fiction. But everything that I've put into the book has come from rumors. Give you an example. As you know, now the Mormons believe in their book called the Book of Mormon that when Jesus, after his resurrection, he came, according to them, to the Americas to visit the people here. And while he was here, he told them that one of his apostles did not die. And that apostle was John the Beloved. All I did was take that rumor or that little piece that somebody said and I put it into the book as one of the characters. I've done that hundreds of times with a whole bunch of different things. You talk about inner earth and people live in inner earth, you know. Admiral Byrd talked about that. Okay. You talk about people who have had near-death experiences and what has happened to them. You'll find things referred to that in the book too. So what I've done is made it on the edge of belief. It really would take a little special belief to actually believe that everything I said in there is true, and followed the course of the book of Revelations and a number of other books that I've read, and implied that and showed their journey not from the time of Adam, all the way up to present day. And actually right now in the third book, we are in the year 2050. That's where we're at. So, and I still have several more books to write to finish the end. But that's kind of a synopsis of what it's about.
So, if people want to buy the book, can they buy it?
It's cheaper if you just go on Amazon and order electronically.
Like the audio, yeah,
It's only like $1.95 or something like that, and you can read it off your phone.
Yeah.
Have you done like an audiobook of it, like you do a voiceover?
I did the first one.
Okay, so this one.
The first one, I've done the second one, but I haven't. I only have the rough draft of it. So.
How many books are you planning to write in this series?
Well, I was just going to write 5, but I'm so far. It's so involved. I'm afraid there's going to be more.
Of the Apocalypse series?
Mm-hmm.
And you said you have 3 completed right now?
Completed. Mm-hmm.
And you're working on the 4th one?
Mm-hmm.
Right on. Well, this is the book, The Last Plague. And I'm actually going to be giving this copy away, so if any of you guys want it, just leave a comment down below saying why you want it, and I'll actually ship this to you guys for free. We'll get in contact via social media. So, but yeah, I've actually read the book, and it's really good. It's one of those books where when you start reading, like, it really gets you thinking, and then you can't put it down. I mean, I remember the first time I picked it up and started reading it, it was like 150 pages of it. I mean, it's how long is the book? Like 400?
I think it's like between 300 or 400.
Yeah, it's like 440 pages. But anyway, no, it's a really good book. It really got me thinking. But I actually started writing because I read this book. I started writing my own stuff. So, but no, it's really cool. So yeah, like I said, if you guys would like this copy, I'll be giving this one away. So just leave a comment down below why you want it, and we'll announce the winner, and we'll get in contact with you guys. So.
Well, I don't read books, so I guess I'll check out the audiobook. Because when I try to read a book, I'm like, words.
The audio book is my voice, so I hope that's okay.
That's fine. I know you, so. Yeah, I can consume audiobooks way better because I listen to podcasts work. So, audiobooks, but I listen to podcasts because they're free because you have to buy audiobooks unless someone upload them on YouTube. And you could just
there's tons of audiobooks on YouTube. So.
Yeah, we're gonna update it on YouTube. So now that I've retired, I can promote this a little bit better. I'm not really interested in making money on this. I'm really interested in if people want to listen to it, if they want to read it. That's the joy of an author, is being able to present something that people enjoy.
Okay. So, how long have we been going?
We've been going for about an hour.
Yeah. So, we have, I guess, there's a lot more we can talk about. We'll probably have Dr. Page on for another episode since we have a lot more to ask him.
I'm sure you guys will be seeing him a lot more often. So there's tons of other topics that we'd love to talk about. I know we kind of jumped around and talked about a lot today, but no, it was pretty exciting. I guess just the last thing that we wanted to talk about was there was a video that we, me and Dr. Page filmed. It was around Christmas time, and there wasn't really a whole lot of explanation. I mean, if you go watch the video, which maybe we'll show a little clip here, but if you go watch the video, it explains more about it. But we kind of wanted to just talk to him about why he wanted to do the video, what the video actually is, and just get a little bit more info about it. So,
well, the video started when my wife and I went to like one of these conventions where they try to improve our marriage and our relationship. It was a 3-day event, and it was in Salt Lake City. A couple by the name of Kirk and Kimberly Duncan were the ones that put it on. And at the end of their 3 days, they did a little dance-like thing. It was like a pantomime dance. And it was demonstrating to the people at the conference that they're there that in this type of activity, all the things that they had presented in the last 3 days. As I was watching this, I decided to take their dance or this pantomime that they were doing to music and apply it to the subject of love. And I wanted to demonstrate this through the grandkids. And we have 29 grandkids. So on Christmas Eve, actually it was 2 days before Christmas, we met together and I showed the grandkids how to do this modified Duncan dance, demonstrating love. And what this did was it showed how a person can sometimes be lost and can't find their way. And that's what they showed in this pantomime to music. And then all of a sudden they get this thought that comes to their mind. And as they looked up into the heavens, they see a seed. And they take the seed and they bring it down and they put it in their hand. And then all of a sudden, what they do is they realize this is the seed of love. And so they nurture this seed. They bring in forces to make that love stronger. And this is what the pantomime showed. And eventually they intensify and strengthen that love to a point that they have it grasped in their hands. But then they realize that they can't control that love. It grows to a point that it explodes. And that seed of love grows and grows, and not only is established with your family and given to your family, but all of a sudden you have that love for your friends. And then people you don't even know. And then all of a sudden it extends to plants and animals and trees and everything on earth as well as people. And then all of a sudden you realize that love is not limited just to earth, but it's also given to the stars, the sun, the moon, the heavens, the clouds, all things that surround us. And then when you realize how strong it is, you know that you want to keep that love. So you gather it together and you place it in your heart. And that's what the pantomime showed. And that's what I wanted the grandkids to demonstrate to their parents. Why? Because I wanted the grandkids to say to their parents, this is a way that I love you. And that's what the whole process was, is just to do that. I have a deep feelings for this subject of love. I think when you guys talk about changing the world, changing your life, accomplish the things that you want to accomplish, recognize one thing, that love is a universal law. If you want to accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish, learn to love. It'll come automatically. It's almost like you talk and use that universal law that exists throughout the universe to bring about what your desires are. It just takes place. The only way you can prove this is you have to do it yourself. If you don't do it yourself, I don't want you to believe my words. I want you to know it yourself, that this is how it can be accomplished. So, that is why I made the video. I wanted to leave this as a kind of a legacy, that they would know that their grandpa feels that the most important thing that you can do in this lifetime is love. And that's why I did it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, love is what makes the world go around. Like, it's not like the ooey gooey love, like you're madly in love with someone, but I think it's just your feelings, like you care for all life in general, not just for human life, but like you're saying, plants, trees, animals, everything. Like, everything is energy, everything is all connected, and yeah, when you give off love, things respond to that. Like, I saw I think it was the Mythbusters. They did a well, I don't even know what you call it, like a test. They did like a test where they took a plant and they like slapped the plant, they screamed at it, they yelled at it, and they hooked the plant up to like some sort of gram where it was like somehow measuring the plant's emotions. And anyway, when the plant was getting slapped and yelled at, it was responding but it wasn't good. Like, the plant was, I don't know, it was like off the charts. But when they treated the plant with love and with kindness, the plant responded and was very calm, very relaxed. And anyway, I guess the point of that was to show that, yeah, all life has feelings, all life responds to things. And when we treat things with love and respect, like, that, I don't know, that's like how you were saying, that is like one of the greatest powers, if not the greatest power out there, is love for things, whatever it may be.
I remember not too long ago, a lady walked into the office and she was crying. And I said, "What's wrong? What's happened?" And she said, "There's been a death." And I've seen this over and over again, where a husband has died, or a child has died, or a relative or friend. And I said, "Who died?" And she said, "My dog." And I've heard this over and over again. How many times have I heard someone say that losing this dog was like losing a child? That's what they would say. You could see the love that this person had for that animal. I've seen it with horses. I've seen it with cats. One of the questions I oftentimes ask is, could you talk to the dog? What do you think the answer is?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Every one of them would say, I could communicate with the dog. And I'm thinking, why do you communicate with the dog? And I've even asked them that. And you know what the answer's always been? They think about it. And they said, I think it's because I love the dog. And it is. It's the same with, for those that are Christians and those that believe that Jesus Christ performed miracles. How is it possible that he could put hands over somebody's eyes and say, you will now be able to see? Well, if those cells in those eyes knew that Jesus Christ loved them, why would they not heal the eyes? If Jesus needed to walk on water to get to a ship, why would he not say to the water, could you hold me up till I get to the boat? And why would they not do it if they knew that he loved them? We don't understand completely all the factors about love, but we do know this, that you can accomplish many, many things we are not able to accomplish yet through love. It's just we haven't reached that level and understanding to do so, is my opinion anyway. So that's one of the reasons I presented this, and I want to make copies for all the grandkids so they will know when I'm no longer here, they can go back and say, Grandpa really thought this was really important, because it is.
Oh, I think unconditional love, like how you're talking about, it's also a way for us to get past the whole fact of like seeing people and judging them, you know. And it doesn't matter who it is. Like if you have unconditional love, the drunk guy in the streets is just as important to you as, you know, your own kids or your family or whatever. And I know most people are going to say like, well, I don't even know the drunk guy. I don't really care about him. And it's not necessarily that. It's just when you have unconditional love, you have compassion for people. You don't judge them. You know, you don't see this drunk guy, but you see his potential. You can be like, well, you know, that guy may be a drunk now, but what if in 10 years he's, you know, the president of the United States? And like just the whole aspect of unconditional love and not judging people, I think is something that every single person on planet Earth, including myself, is something that we could get better at. I know there's a lot of times where, you know, I'll be doing whatever or watching TV or videos, or I'll hear something on the news where I just immediately judge that person. I'm like, well, no, that guy's a piece of crap, or I think she's wrong, you know. And I don't think the life we live is necessarily about right and wrong. You know, I don't really believe in right and wrong. I just believe in there's things that serve us and then there's things that don't. And so when we have that unconditional love, you can look at somebody who just committed a huge murder and you can say, you know what? You know, that guy may have goofed. He may have just ruined several people's lives, like took it from him. But, I mean, the being of, you know, the creator, God, the universe, whatever you want to say, created that person and still loves them just the same. You know, if we truly are children of the creator, you know, think about, you know, I don't have any kids yet, but if you think about your children that you have, you know, if one of your kids like falls over, you don't walk up to the kid and said, wow, you screwed up, and then kick them. You don't do that. You help them back up. And so I think, yeah, this is where brotherly love, this is where the unconditional love comes in, this is when the world's going to change. When people can stop seeing the world as separate, they'll stop seeing themselves separate from whoever. When we can all start seeing ourselves as one, we're all connected, and we can all get the bigger picture, get the vision of, hey, you know, we should band together. Like, this is who we are. We aren't supposed to be separate. It's when we're separated that we're weak. You know, it's like my dad would always say, we're like drops from the ocean. When we're by ourselves, we can't really do anything. I mean, yeah, you can. But when you're a part of that ocean, when you're connected, you are way more powerful. So, you know, I completely agree. The day the world changes is the day that love is unleashed. And I'm talking about unconditional love. That you don't need something in order to love somebody or to love this thing. You just love it because it is what it is, and you love it for what it is. You don't want to change it. You're not trying to destroy it or mock it or whatever. You just accept it and you move on. You love whatever that thing is, that person, that individual, and you move on. You just love it for what it is. So.
Yes. So a few minutes ago I tried to see if we're ending the podcast. That was a mistake, but I don't know if we're done yet, because I don't know, I'm not a professional on this thing.
Oh, that's cool. We can wrap it up, but
I guess we could end on I don't know what I was gonna say. See, I'm not professional when it comes to this stuff.
it takes practice, and you know what? What's the definition of professional?
Well, I had a few questions. They're more comedic, but we can save them for next time.
Well, just give me one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about if I give you one?
Okay.
What is the most funniest thing I've ever seen as a physician? How's that?
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
I remember one time that we had a gentleman who was in the hospital who mentally was not competent. Okay, there was something wrong with him. We don't have a psychiatric unit at our hospital, so we had to keep him in the hospital until we could find some facility to take him and transfer him to that facility. While we were there getting him admitted and everything, the hospital was on the ground floor. There was no second, third, or fourth. It was always just one floor. And at the end of each of the halls, there was an exit door. Well, he stripped naked, and he went out the exit door, and he was running around naked out on the lawn, which was snow covered. And the nurses were out chasing him, and they couldn't catch him. And so the doctors were just sitting there laughing. We were laughing the whole time because we couldn't stop laughing. But that was a funny event that took place as a physician several years ago.
Was that the first time you saw someone naked?
The first time I saw somebody naked as a physician was actually when I lived in Mexico, and I worked in a clinic down there. And it wasn't me that was embarrassed. There were two of us. It was one of my friends who was a medical student too, and it was the first time he saw. And he was so embarrassed that he covered his eyes up. And but I actually acted normal. I did okay, but he was really funny to watch him. And that happens all the time. Funny things like that happen all the time. I've seen a number of doctors pass out in surgery.
What?
Yeah, you'd see blood and guts, and all of a sudden they just topple over, passed out, and they never lived it down after that. We would tease them for years over that. So there's a lot of funny things that happen. You don't hear about, but
Well, I'm sure that would scare people if they're like, "Oh yeah, my guy performing surgery on me passed out." So.
yeah, well, we didn't pass it on to the patients, but we razzed them for quite a while over that.
Nice.
So even though you were a physician, did you have to actually do any surgery? Like surgery can count as maybe cutting a.
Oh, you cut almost every day. When I first was in practice, I was probably in surgery every day.
Oh.
So you do a lot of surgery. Nowadays, we don't do as much because costs are so high when you tie up two doctors rather than just have one. So, but I've done a lot of surgery.
So one more question. You talked about how people passed out and freaked out at the sight of blood, and so what's the most gory or bloody thing, most disturbing thing you've seen?
I saw a near decapitation.
Oh.
Where the head was nearly taken off. It was just hanging on. Somebody ran into the back of a semi.
So the person was dead? Yeah.
Yes.
So did they brought the body to the hospital though?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
Well, they just threw him in.
Oh.
It was years ago. Nowadays, I don't think they would. But then we didn't have paramedics. We just had ambulance drivers. They weren't even EMTs. It would be different now.
Yeah, I think 911, wasn't that set up in the 80s?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It wasn't available when I started practice.
Yeah, I thought it was available before the 50s, but then I hear it's was only available in around the 80s. Wow, I couldn't imagine today without 911.
Yeah, it did make things much better when we did have 911 established. Yeah. That's true.
So, there's probably more questions we can ask, but we're kind of...
Yeah, we're running out of time, so we'll save them for later. But
thank you for coming on.
Sure, enjoyed being with you both. Yeah.
Excited for the next time you come on. So.
That's okay.
But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like. And like I mentioned earlier, if you would like the copy of The Last Plague. This is the first book in the Apocalypse series. If you would like it, be sure to, if you would like me to send it to you, be sure to leave a comment down below saying why you want it, and we will send it to you absolutely free. So be sure to do that.
Yeah, and this is the first 2 books are available.
The first 3.
First 3.
Well, there's 4 altogether.
Yeah.
And they're also in 20 different languages, too.
Okay. Yeah, so if that interests you, you can go buy it on Amazon, and
We'll put links to all this in the description so you can go check it out.
so yeah. But thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. So
Keep it rad.
don't do anything that would make you go visit this guy.
No, we don't want that.
See you later.
You've got mail. Goodbye.